conversation. We have to have faith that God is indeed by our side, because there have been moments I can testify that you can align with Jesus on the cross. God,
Faithful Friday this morning.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we're reminded that no matter where we are, our faithful God is always with us. And
standing
so,
by.
even in those moments of despair and despondency, He is always, always faithful to us. The challenge is that we aren't.
Dear, this, I knew you. I knew you'd take it home. I knew you'd take it home. The challenge is we are not. I remember looking at something
not
that
faithful at all.
No,
we're not.
I was looking at something that says, God's hand is always stretched out for us or down to us. It's just that we stop stretching up. We're pulling back our arms. And so it has created the disparity or the disconnect that we now experience with Him.
I'm reminded of the story of the prodigal son. The father
is
sat
always
at the gates waiting for him.
Always.
And that is the power of choice, because he couldn't go in search of him. His heart yearned, but he had to stay and allow him to return. I'm sure he had the resources to employ spies or private investigators to go and bring him back. But the cross had to happen.
Had to come.
And we have to find ourselves.
You have to make a choice.
That's really where it is.
You have to make the choice. You have to make the choice. The choice must be yours willingly and consensually. It has to be you and all you that says, I am going home to my Father, and whether or not I will be a servant and willing. And this is the next piece of it: the willingness to take the lesser position, even as a crown prince.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know what? It's also the faithfulness of God. I think it's a mystery, right?
Yes, always.
It's also a mystery, because a lot of times we don't understand how God could love us even in our state. and so it is our doubt, going back to how faithless we are, that says there's no way this innocent God could love wretched me.
Perfect.
I am not worthy.
You know that undeserving merits that we get, undeserving forgiveness, undeserving of it, that we get the grace and the mercies that we receive.
On point. And so sometimes it's hard for us to accept it.
Yeah.
And that is where I believe, our faith needs to be extended.
Have you got the chance to listen? Have you got the chance to read the lesson or anything to the lesson that this?
About relationships.
About relationships and stuff.
Week is about relationships in different spaces. I when I reviewed this morning's focus was about how we relate to each other and how we use words, and the fact that the Bible cautions us to be gentle and calm
and kind
in how we relate to each other. It says to me that we haven't gotten it right.
No, but what we have done so far is that
it begs the question, Mikey G, Coralee Karen, do we actually teach these facts, or is it after we have been converted truly that these are representations of this transformation? I can tell you, please walk on the left, but you now know based on how the road layout that this is the way to, so that I don't really have to tell you this because you know that it will be safer for you to do that. So my question is, when true conversion happens, do we have to be teaching these ways as to how we relate to each other?
Well, I will say this one thing to you is that one thing is certain about. Lady Coralee, go ahead. Go ahead.
As you asked the question, there two things came to my mind. That conversion is a destination, and a lot of times we're in the process, you know, and there are people who are further along than others. And my immediate response to your question after going through that thought process is that it is manifested. So two things. If you're converted, then how you relate to each other is not a word thing, it's a behavior thing. And so you're seeing that change. So when you talk about Moses coming down from an encounter with God, he didn't have to say anything. His countenance bespoke where he was, who he was with. And so nobody has to ask you. You don't have to tell anybody because it is evidenced.
Coralee Karen, I just said that. It's like if you are with me and anybody see you, they must know that you were with me, right afterwards. You should, understand.
And Mikey G, Coralee Karen, all this conversation.
That's where I'm going, right?
This conversation.
No, get this. I want to say this quickly. This. That you mentioned earlier about the idea of the just dropped my thought just a little bit a while ago. It is
about being in the present.
Not in the present, but of persons who are ever learning how to be better than themselves, good as it were, which we must understand that good must be taught. It's not something that just happened out of thin air. Evil is expected of man. And when you say man, we're using man in the generic sense at this point, which means man in totality, male and female.
Mm-hmm.
And so good must be taught so we understand what it looks like. My problem is that the place that teaches this good, which should be the Christian church, and not a place so much as a set of persons, because I believe that the church is not the building, and I refuse to want to call the building the church. I keep attacking that nonsense because it's not true. It's a lie being told to people about that church building, that church. We want, if we use the temple as the operative word to use, would have changed the narrative of our behavior even within the space more than one time. Because it would be the temple of the church. It wouldn't be the church building where the church come to sit down and squabble about things. It would be the temple of God where the church come in his presence. You see where I'm going? Two different things. But here is the understanding that where it is taught within this fold of teaching, it is not known. It's an elusive concept that we have found. Even with the whole story this week, where we are talking about the how to relate to each other. When you hear the word husband, what do you hear?
Ask the question again, Mikey.
When you hear the word husband, what do you hear? Husband.
Lady Elise, that sits at your feet.
All right, see it. All right, so let me don't answer. Don't answer. I'm not asking you to answer. Did you hear husband in the same lineup as Lord, or in the same lineup as King? Did you hear it that way? No, I'm asking, did you hear it like that? Just for the purpose of the conversation, did you hear husband in the lineup of Lord, For example, the concept of Lord.
Michael, I'm going to ask you if you could help us with free.
All right. I thought all this time you were talking, All right, Denise, I'm just going to leave it. I'm going to leave it. What I'm going to do is this. I'm not going to do anything with this. I'm going to just leave it a little bit for it to simmer, because that's where the disconnect comes. That the husbands are not seen as lords, as is the concept of what husband is. Husband is not just an arbitrary thing as companion to somebody. It is a status that exists outside of that, which tells you that the person that he is with is queen.
And so
both.
The onus is on both.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, the both don't come in yet. The both don't come yet. It is queen and king, if you want to see it that way.
Absolutely.
And Sarah called her husband Lord. Now, if we saw that, and it's not a disrespect to a wife to be queen and king, and say, oh, we are two CEOs, we are both partners. That means you are king and I'm king too. That means you would marry to another man, in a sense. You see where I'm going? And that's not where we are with marriage.
I will say to you, Michael, that a king doesn't have to go around telling people that he's a king.
But that's the point. You remember when slave masters were, you remember slavery was in place? You remember this narrative of slavery? You do remember the actual narrative of slavery, what it was? The narrative of slavery was the little boy who was in the house of the slave masters, the owner of the slave. That man who was 70 years of age would have to call that little boy 5-year-old master. And he didn't have to earn it. So why wives are having problems with their husbands to call them husband after even consenting to get married in the first place? All right, we're leaving that conversation there. Lady Elise, I think we're going to take it away from there.
So this morning on the breakfast hour, I wanted to tie it in earlier into the idea of, which I have now lost my train of thought. But the idea of having been sold a narrative. So we had an interesting listen.
You mean the bad narrative that the husbands are not have to work again to be husbands again and to be respected in their homes? I don't know. I don't know if that's a narrative. But anyways, go ahead, Lady. Okay, I got it. Triggered by the conversation. All right, let's get it. Let's get into it. And we can take a short break and then we can come back and
Yes.
let's take a short break and when we come back.
Join us for an unforgettable evening of praise and worship. Clifton Hunter High School presents One Voice, One Praise, happening on Saturday, March 28, 2026 at 6 p.m. at the Clifton Hunter High School Performance Hall. Come and experience powerful performances by students, teachers, churches in the community, special guest visitors. Adults $10, children $5. All proceeds go towards supporting the Key Club and Spanish Venture. Don't miss this uplifting night of worship, unity, and inspiration. See you there.
All right. Welcome back. All right, Lady Elise, Lady Coralee Karen, good morning once again. Our listeners this morning, guys, good morning to you. How are you doing? Thanks for joining. We are on this morning's Friday. It's Family Friday, guys. Of course, remember today's All Gospel Friday as well. And we're going to be doing a whole lot today right here at Flashpoint.
Absolutely. Faithful Friday is what it is coined for today. And we started our conversation about how faithful our God is.
Yes.
And the fact that we just need to allow our faith to be exercised, to be receptive of what He has for us.
I think you quickly went to how faithful we are also to our God.
We sometimes forget.
We sometimes forget that we need to be faithful as well, you know.
Absolutely. So, Lady Elise, you had you started a thought. Yes.
Yes, so in relation to our conversation, thanks for bringing me back there as to how we relate to each other. The question is, how do our government relate to us, and how have been taught to think? And so we had an interesting we listened to an interesting conversation that we thought it would be worthwhile sharing. We won't share the entire content, but I think this one will be worthwhile sharing to our listeners.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
We're in a situation in which the violence of the economy has reached a very, very obscene peak. We have actually 12 people in the world owning more than the bottom 4 billion people. We've built it. We need to see how the systemic forces trap us and shape us. But we're the architects, so there is space for alternatives if we build them.
Now, how do you actually think change would happen? Are you revolutionary? Hello and welcome to Ways to Change the World. I'm Krishnan Giri-Murthy, and this is the podcast where we talk to extraordinary people about the big ideas in their lives and the events that have helped shape them. My guest this week is an economist who wants us to rethink the idea that capitalism is simply the natural order of things. Clara Matai is an author and professor of economics whose work explores how economic ideas become tools of power, shaping policy while masking the political decisions beneath. Her new book, Escape from Capitalism, argues that many of the problems that we see as inevitable, poverty, unemployment, inflation, are built into the system and shored up by models and theories designed to convince us that there is no alternative. Welcome to the podcast.
It's such a pleasure.
I mean, how can you escape capitalism? I mean, we are all brought up to believe or to think that it is just the way of the world, it is human nature to want to accumulate things and wealth and to have the freedom to choose what you want and what your destiny is.
So the first point is to escape the mental trap that naturalizes the system, that makes us think exactly what you just said, which is that we have a spontaneous tendency towards this capitalist economy. What I show in the book is that capitalism is far from spontaneous. It requires constant, violent enforcement of those policies of austerity to preserve the system in place. So what the state needs to do is to protect the market by keeping the majority of us subordinated to the market itself and maintaining us in a situation by which we have no alternative but to go work for a wage, and usually a very low wage and very precarious conditions.
So what is...
All right, so I think...
Whet the appetite, will you?
No, just the introduction alone. Just your thoughts, Coralee Karen.
What jumped out at me is that we have been... What was very forceful is one thing, is that we're subjected to a system without even knowing it.
Yes.
And importantly is that the suggestion is that we would have to be learned as to the fact that there's an alternative. It came across that we grow up, we go to school, and we're almost following robotically what is predetermined, in that you have to work, and with that being the case, you now are subjected to a system that is not created or designed to make it for you to actually be more than what you were born into. And so when she mentioned that there are 12 people in the whole world that has all the wealth, and then you have the 4 billion people of us struggling, that disparity is not even
don't make any sense. Don't make any sense.
It doesn't make any
absolutely
sense.
No sense at all.
Here's the wicked part of it, is that the 4 billion people is believing that they can get into the category of the 12.
It will never happen.
Never.
And so the system is, it tricks you to think, okay, if you work hard enough, if you work long enough,
the carrot and the stick,
can be one of the 12. But the truth is that the 12, having created the system, it is done in such a way that it's good that you're having that mindset, that you believe that it can happen. But the truth is that it will never happen, because they are controlling the avenues that would get you through to where they are.
And so that is not where you need to aspire to be. You need to aspire to be at a lesser level, and ensure that where you are, you should be happy with that.
The interesting thing is that unless you stop, you're actually on almost like a production line. It just continues 24 hours. So it's either you're going to jump off, or it's either something is going to, like they put a spokes in your wheel that causes it to stop. Unless something sort of jars you into some sort of consciousness, you're going to be continuing that roller coaster, that production line, until at the end of the day, you just fall off. Thinking that you have an opportunity to be a part of the 12, when the truth is that it really is a fallacy.
You consider the idea. Go ahead, Denise.
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, but the thing is, it is not too far-fetched, Coralee Karen, Mikey G. Do you see that what she is saying is what we are seeing?
It is exactly what you're seeing.
Is this your experience? Well, it is.
All right, here's where I'm going to go. Here's where I'm going to go with it. This is where I'm going to take it now. Did you hear the concept of the idea of poverty being written into the code?
Yes, it must be.
Because poverty being written into the code is what makes the engine run. It's like fuel, it's like gasoline or diesel for the engine.
Yes. Yes.
There's a country, I think it's Tanzania, I came across it, where people are they don't have to go to work, basically, in essence, for real.
Really?
That's the concept of it. I should share it with you. Because we're having this conversation this morning, I probably should have just grabbed that video and that little clip that I found.
So that we can all migrate.
Hold on, that's the point. I'm certain that there is
strict immigration laws.
I'm certain that there are strict immigration laws there that prevents migration to that location too easily. Because what it does, it protects the people who are there for themselves to be in this utopia for themselves. And so they work because they want to work, not because they have to work, but because they want to work. So if you see somebody going around building a house or something, it's because they want to do it, not because they have to do it.
Need to. But even the concept of owning, because as I listen to the video, the recording, she proceeds to say that owning a house It's a good thing, but the process is so overwhelming, you know. And let's be real about it. If you're thinking of purchasing a property now, you're going to have the down payment. You're going to have the closing costs. You have and all the incidentals that go along with it. So it's easier for you to rent. But here's what's happening: because you don't have that upfront capital, you know how it's like you're a slave to renting a property, because it's easier to find that monthly than to find the millions or the thousands that 10% deposit that is required, and the additional 30 odd percent that the tax and whatever it is. You know, hold me to the percentage, but the point is, for dramatization purposes, is that you have to have that lump sum amount. And how many of us really have that amount of money that can even start to consider? Okay, you have to talk about lawyer fee, you have to talk about transfer fee, you have to talk about registration, and those are costs that you need to have in your pocket before you even can consider it. And so it's good for you to have a property to call your own, but again, the system is so designed that they want to lock you into a rental thing that at the end of the day, you don't own that money, you don't own that property. You are just fueling the owner.
You're a high valued renter.
Exactly. And when you look at what's happening, there's so much construction going on, and before the construction is even complete, those units are sold, because there are people, the 12 people have the capital to put up and say, guess what, I'm buying all of these. And so the owners of those properties they don't care who you are. They're not going to filter it. They are interested in getting it sold. And so whoever comes with the money gets it. And usually it's the 12 people who are going to buy those property and then lock in the 4 billion into paying the rent for the property that they would have purchased.
For the rest of your
Bob
life.
Marley say,
For the rest of your life.
The system. Michael, you're the Bob Marley.
Babylon system is a vampire.
Well, you know.
And if you know what vampires are, and the concept of vampirism, it sucks your blood until you're dry. And when you're dead, when you're dry, they take the carcass and just toss it away and move on to the next victim. Babylon system is a vampire.
Lady Elise.
Yes, I was saying that if we really consider the full narrative and the idea that all this is controlled, because you do need the working class to fuel what I've built, and you can't allow them to go outside of this working class. What would happen if everyone found out that this thing is created? We cannot afford that.
Well, what you're seeing right now,
what will happen?
What you're seeing right now, Lady Elise, is that the curtains that were up all these years is down now. It's easier seen.
Well,
not by every eyes. Unfortunately, not by every eyes. The filter is still on for many persons. They are unable to see. But for people like myself, I would be able to see some things that many people would never be able to see as long as they live, and they will die and never see it.
So true.
When I say to our listeners and viewers who are just joining us, you're tuned into the Breakfast Hour, is Faithful Friday, and today we are having a conversation around an economist. Her name is Sierra, and she is an Italian economist now living in Oklahoma, and she shares some very interesting points that impact us wherever in the world we are. She spoke about the U.S. economy as well, and I think maybe we will not have enough time to really break this down, and I think we really need to revisit it, Coralee Karen and Mikey G, and really.
But what we could do with it is make justice of it in terms of just giving small points. I went to school when many of my friends were not going to school. They basically started life earlier and stopped
Yes.
going to school for a while. Didn't continue the schooling system that was given to us. Which in its essence, education for me is good, but I see education as something that has kept us from where we need to be. And so in a lot of ways, education has deterred us from where we could have been and urged us into where we ought to go by a system that designed to put us in that way of thinking.
But the system is designed by the same people who are perpetrating to keep the subduing of the
very good. So the education system is always one, and when I look at many of the things, I look at the research materials that are out there where Henry Ford and all these guys who were the original persons of industry at the early days of the industrialized age. They built in a system that built in workforce and how you should be. They did experimentals on workforce time in terms of the hours that you should work. And over a period of time, that they would realize that this 40-hour work week would lock you in so much that you didn't have much time for your family. And so by not having much time for your family, you're not able to stay there with them to do much with your family. Even the house that you built, you can't live in there at all. Then the school system came and took your children and now hold them captive, that even when they are home, there is homework. And it's not the ones that you want to give them, like washing up the dishes and cleaning the house and help you with other stuff that needs to happen around your house. And have family time. And so much homework for the children. It is a system that keeps families separated. We are talking about this today because it's Family Friday. And we don't want to see we don't want to not see the connection and think it's a disconnect, not to understand that this is a rudimental, disorganized and crafted system that keeps families separated, whether be it physical or mentally. All right, so I'm going to go back to where we went to school. Some of my counterparts didn't continue the schooling and they went off to start doing trades and whatever it is. What I noticed is that over the next period of time when I was still going to school, they were busy building one room of a house and living in the one room. And then when I finished school, I realized that they had 4 rooms and a complete house living in over time. No mortgage to pay and no bank, no form of financing. They just bought blocks and cement and steel and went and built it one room at a time. Lovely homes were there. Somebody would say to me at this point, where is a regulatory body and of course the insurance of seeing that those homes being properly made and be by code? I would say that possibly some of those homes were not built by code, and of course they are subject to maybe some level of scrutiny at that point. But most of these houses, most of the time when we think about the houses, it's usually the roofs of the house that we are worried about, not so much the structure. But what we know from our builders is that they are putting some good foundations. Some of the roofs are not good, but what has happened over time was that they start putting on slabs for tops, and that happened too. And so those were not subject to the hurricane and all of that. What was happening with even what the disaster happened in Jamaica previously was persons who were unscrupulous, who dumped land in riverbeds and sold people the property.
Yeah.
Right? And so it wasn't about bad and poor construction, but it was about wicked persons who did unscrupulous things and sold persons' property that wouldn't work. I said all of that to say this, that while I praise education, everyone should have an education. But I believe that the education system as it is right now is not as effective for many persons to make them better. It makes you worse in a lot of ways if you're not careful and know how to navigate that path.
It ensures that you stay on the production line.
That's what I'm telling you.
You're doing it by route.
Yes.
You're doing it by route. You know, one of the things that she reminded, certainly me, is that the workers are the ones who are paying taxes. The people who are the 12 people, they
don't pay taxes. They don't pay any tax at all. And they're exempted from taxation.
So do you agree with me then, Coralie, Karen, and Mikey G, that we must spend the time to walk through this presentation? It's not something that we can, because there's also the fact that countries are held hostage, whole countries, in terms of, even though they have wealth, they are poor, right? The people are poor. And so the question is, these measures are kept in place, the austerity measures, to almost keep you in line. So, it's an interesting thought, an interesting conversation, and I want it to be a situation where we walk through it step by step. Mikey G opened a whole new can of worms when he spoke about the education system. That's another can of worms. So I'll say good morning, listeners and viewers. We have a few listeners joining us from all over the globe. Today is the official start of spring. Yes.
Springtime.
So welcome to our listeners and viewers. We are having a very interesting conversation that I know we have to go back to. Coralie, Karen, and Mikey G. I don't know. Are we in agreement here? Yes.
Well, all right. If this is, we can come back to it another time. Of course, it's a necessary conversation that we must have, because this is not just an arbitrary one. It speaks to future generations of us that will come and be in the system. But what you must understand is that the system will not let you escape it.
It holds you hostage, and as I said,
it will not let you escape it.
A moment of pause that causes you to jump off and rethink. In the interview, the guy, so are you a revolution? Is it rebellion or revolutionist? He asked. He labeled her as
revolutionist.
The moment you start to think, I watched the clip. Let me tell you what I watched the clip. And let me just tell you quickly. I watched the clip, right, where here is the people sitting in a chair or walking up to the podiums, and so throughout the education system, what happened is you have a full head, but you have a knife that flips off the skull, the top of your skull, and then that light bulb of thoughts and thinking and creativity just pops up in a bulb-like way, and then there's a hammer that comes on and smash it, and then after smashing it, then you have that graduation cap that you get with a little tassel at the side, put onto your head, and you graduate, right? So I saw the clip, and I was saying, oh my God, it is in fact such a true thing. So many creativity that would have been cultivated, destroyed by the education that we would have received, and make the person docile to actually become who they are supposed to be by teaching them something that probably wouldn't take them anywhere. But if they was allowed to just think, there would have been something else, right? That's another conversation for another time. Being able to think and not allow people to decide if you can think that. And that's where the problem comes. When you start to think too much, you are labeled every single thing under the planet, among other things. You know, so it is not simple.
Being a revolutionist, she clarified it, because she says it's about going against the status quo, and I think we would have sufficiently framed what we're talking about in terms of austerity and capitalism and so on, and her position is that a revolution is seen as a negative only because those who are protecting the status quo is going to want to fight, literal bloodshed fight.
They will kill you to take it.
And it was interesting.
Yes.
I found it really, really interesting, and I'm going to have to listen to it again, Mikey G, Lady Elise, because when we talk about Marxism, you're talking about communism, and she was saying, it's how you were taught to interpret the theory.
Can I ask you a question?
Frame you.
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question? What would it look like, Lady Coralie and Lady Elise? What would it look like for every person that... All right, first you have to see one person having how many $billion? One person. And one of those persons with how many $1 billion can in fact give housing to every single person on this planet.
Yeah.
Every person on this planet could have a proper house to live in with just one person sharing that one, the billions that they have to do that one thing. Or not a person, but the accumulative wealth of one individual would have accumulated if they didn't have it. That amount of money could provide housing for every single person on this planet, which homelessness would not be a thing.
And here's a statistic that she provided. Sorry.
How many persons are homeless that work, actually work?
Yes. And then the 1 in 3 child who is hungry. 1 in 3 in the United States is hungry. And I'm like, what?
So let me ask the question now. What would living somewhere that gives you health care that you don't pay for, give you education that you don't have to pay for, and housing that you don't have to pay for as a standard of living for that country? What would that look like to you?
Certainly not the system that obtains just now. That's what we have to
But a question, is there a system that does that? Or even wants to do it? I would suggest to you that this morning that the system that you are looking at is not one that will ever want to let you loose from the production line, as you said, and keep you hostage to an environment and a situation that will never release you from this bondage of is proverbial slavery in its essence, in its biggest sense. You work yourself. That 8 hours that you go out every day, the house that you bought, and that 8 hours that you spend at the office all day, and when you come home sleep in it for 3 hours and then leave. You don't even get to enjoy the thing that you claim that you work for. You don't, because you have to spend the rest of your life in that factory working like a slave to maintain what you think you have.
Yes.
That's ridiculous. The peasants back in the early centuries, they say, work for a period of 100 and something about 170 days of the year. They were called peasants, and they survived. Peasants of the early days worked only 100 and something of the 365 days of the year. Worked 100 and something, half of the year, like a 6 months period. The entire year, 6 months. The rest of the 6 months of the year is theirs. Not that it was done in that order, but 100 and possible 50 or 60 days would be allotted to working. We can fact check that and take a look at it later on. And they were called peasants at that time. Peasants, which suggests poor people. Now we have to work 8 full hours, which is 365 days of the year, or 68, or 67, or 400. If we can't make it up in the day, we have to make it up in the night, right?
Michael,
so we are worse than peasants.
Well, going back to your 3 hours, it got me thinking, because the truth is, you are to arrive at that point and then spend 8 hours. But if you consider the commute, the truth is, it takes
3 hours,
almost 2 hours or 3 hours to get there. That is to get there, 3 hours to come back. So that is now how many hours? 6 plus 8 is 14 hours. So, and then you have no family life, as what you were speaking to, and then you have not. By the time you're ready, is really 3 hours you have to put your head on the pillow and come back, and then you start the
cycle all over again.
Well, Coralee Karen and Mikey G, I'm going to apologize for us starting this conversation and cannot wind it up or to bring it to the culmination that it needs to. And I'm suggesting that we do break this up in segments and we really do our research and come here and share, because that's change that we need to see start with one person at a time, and how we view. And because so often we are on this proverbial hamster wheel, spinning, and not realizing that the narrative that have been sold to us, there's a much bigger picture that's there. And before we get out of studio, Mikey,
have you ever been told that, before you move, have you ever been told that one person cannot make a difference? Have you ever heard it anywhere? That one person can't make a difference. Have you ever heard it being promoted?
I've heard it. I've heard that. But
that is a lie. That is a lie that has been told to every single person, that one person cannot make a difference, because it has always been one person who have made a difference in every aspect of our entire existence. That's all I have to say for that this morning. Lady, let's take it up.
I know, Mikey, I'm saying this because as we bring it all together, today we are having a discussion about a very interesting presentation that's it's in the public space, but it's something that's worth thought and conversation about. And we are going to continue the conversation regarding how we think and how we frame and how we view the world and how it impacts even how we relate to each other, because sometimes we will step on each other just to go to the next rung and not knowing that even that could be
the glass ceiling.
Yes.
There's a glass ceiling, and here's why it's glass. It gives the impression that you can get beyond there, but the truth of it is that there is a stop that
you cannot pass it. You will not pass it.
You cannot cross it.
You cannot cross it. Even if you're a fisherwoman
or a fisherman, you can't cross it.
But the point is to before we get out, tomorrow one of the members of our team, one of our presenters, he's going to be celebrating his birthday. I mean, it is the beginning of spring, and it's suitable that he would have been born at this time, a new birth, a spring. And certainly we want to express birthday wishes on this platform even before the day, which is tomorrow.
Well, all right.
The day.
Yes.
We want to say
happy birthday, Mr. Mario.
Let me tell you something.
Yes.
What you have added to the team here at Flashpoint is just, you talk about. Yes, he's dependent. I mean, you can depend on Mario all the time.
Yes.
And he says what he thinks, and his knowledge and his conversation. Mario, we want to wish you a happy birthday from the Breakfast Hour crew.
Friends
here live tomorrow.
I want to say friends for 20 years. Of this guy, good friends for 20 years. I've known him, and we are friends from the very time we met. That's it.
Yes.
20 years ago, we possibly crossed paths, and still friends even until this very day.
Have a wonderful birthday, Mario, and know that you're special to us, and not just to us, but there's a group of people who hold you dear.
Yes.
And so we really want you to enjoy your special day as in its fullest, and make sure that you embrace all that is in store for you. Have a wonderful
happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mario. Big up yourself, my virgin. It's our word, all right?
Big up yourself. Thank you so much for all you do. And of course, I must acknowledge our viewer on Facebook who just, confirmed the point that we just made, that we can't cross it.
Well, listen, what we can do though, we must never stop trying.
We must never stop trying.
We must never stop trying. one of the biggest problems we have had is that failure occurs long before we start doing something because we tell ourselves that is impossible. There is not that word. It is impossible only because you didn't do it. Yesterday it was impossible, but somebody did it today. It's possible, don't it? So the concept is, it is impossible until somebody does it. Why not you?
Amen.
Why not you? Why don't you be the one who does it that makes the impossible go away? I am Mikey G, Flashpoint, and of course I'll tell you that I am that person who will always do that impossible thing for myself because I believe that I am able to do it. I know that I'm able to do it.
I will just want to take the moment to encourage our listeners and our viewers on this faithful Friday to be reminded that our faithful God is, as was the case with the father for the prodigal son, he is sitting and waiting on us to exercise our faith, because in the same breath, the same conversation, if you have faith that you can be the one person to change it, then it is well on its way to being done. Have a faithful Friday, family.
Thank you, guys. Of course, remember, join us all day today for our gospel edition of All Gospel Friday. Of course, this evening at 5:30, proof comes up. And of course, the open portal at 6:30 in the PM. Of course, the lesson will come on later on after that. And of course, what we call a Sabbath experience with Flashpoint continues all day throughout tomorrow, tonight into tomorrow, and the sunset hours. And we will, of course, have a wonderful time with you. Of course, continue to enjoy Flashpoint all day today.
Thank you so much for tuning in, listeners. See you later.
Of course.
Have yourself a beautiful, a fantastic, faithful Friday.
Catch us for the open portal this evening. Please join us. It's going to be a wonderful time. Have a wonderful day, guys.
There are two things I do know right now. One, you're listening to Flashpoint Radio. Number two, you ain't gonna keep it to yourself. Flashpoint Radio. Internet comes alive. Inspiration? In a class by itself.